One man is dead. Another man's life is at stake. If there's a reasonable doubt in your minds as to the guilt of the accused, a reasonable doubt, then you must bring me a verdict of not guilty. Now, if, however, there's no reasonable doubt, then you must, in good conscience, find the accused guilty.
The first two movies we've covered for Justice Night Extravaganza, Anatomy of a Murder and My Cousin Vinny, both focus on lawyers and the actual trials themselves. Tonight we're talking about a movie that focuses on the jury. I'm talking about Sidney Lumet's 12 Angry Men.
And if we vote the accused guilty, we've got to send him to the chair. That's mandatory.
I think we know that.
Let's see who's where.
Okay, anyone doesn't want to vote?
Guy with me.
Okay, then just remember that this has to be 12-0 either way.
Written as a teleplay by Reginald Rose, who had only just started to make it as a screenwriter, selling his first play to the live anthology series Studio One in 1951. In 1954, he was summoned to jury duty over a manslaughter case. And an 8-hour argument that the jury got into inspired him to write 12 Angry Men. He realized very few people ever really serve on one of those crucial juries, and wanted people to better understand the mechanisms and the weight of jury duty. Franklin Schaffner, who would go on to direct Planet of the Apes, Papillon, and Patton, directed the first live version of 12 Angry Men on Westinghouse Studio One on CBS.
Westinghouse Studio One. Power to serve the nation's defense.
Starring Robert Cummings as Juror 8 and Franchot Tone as Juror 3. It blew people away, winning 3 Emmys at the 7th Primetime Emmys. Robert Cummings won Best Actor in a Single Performance, Franklin Schaffner won Best Director, and Reginald Rose won Best Written Dramatic Material.
I got a kid. When he was 8 years old, he ran away from a fight. I saw him. I told him right out, I'm going to make a man out of you, or I'm going to bust him into little pieces, trying. And then when he was 15 years old, he hit me in the face. He's big, you know. Kids, you work your heart out. I haven't seen him in 3 years.
Henry Fonda saw the 7th Primetime Emmys at the same time he was setting up Orion Pictures as an offshoot of United Artists. He was incredibly impressed with 12 Angry Men and wanted to produce a film version and star as Juror Number 8. The message about standing up in the face of a lynch mob, even if it's an unpopular decision, was extremely powerful during the McCarthy era, especially to a liberal-minded person like Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda contacted Reginald Rose, and together they recruited Sidney Lumet. This was Lumet's directorial debut. He'd go on to direct dozens of films like Dog Day Afternoon, Network, The Verdict, Serpico, Murder on the Orient Express, and Equus. He had been working as a TV director and had directed some of Reginald Rose's plays for Studio One. The story, with its McCarthy-era implications, had a special resonance for Lumet, who was misidentified in a photograph by a prolific FBI informant and was almost blacklisted as a communist based on a misidentified photo.
Ever since you walked into this room, you've been acting like a self-appointed public avenger. You want to see this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a sadist.
Get him out!
You don't really mean you'll kill me, do you?
It stars Henry Fonda as Juror Number 8, of course, but Lee J. Cobb as Juror Number 3, Martin Balsam, Ed Begley Sr., Joseph Sweeney, Edward Binns, Jack Klugman, E.G. Marshall, George Voskovec, and Robert Weber. When 11 jurors want to convict an 18-year-old kid who's going to get the chair as a mandatory sentence for killing his father, Henry Fonda as Juror Number 8 is the only one who stands up and wants to talk through the evidence again. As it becomes clear that a lot of the evidence is faulty or doesn't add up the way they thought, other jurors begin to have doubts about his guilt.
Lock, door, stop.
Right.
What's the time?
Exactly 41 seconds.
In that way, it serves as both an instructional guide about the purpose of jury duty, but also as a metaphor for the times and standing up against easy political headwinds. I think that Sidney Lumet was an excellent choice for a director. His work would become known for its inherent realism and for its working-class performances and themes. Both are on full display here. These characters range across the socioeconomic spectrum, a guy from the slums, an advertising guy, the type of angry working class guy who would form the backbone of the conservative movement. The working class is not a monolithic group. And the visual realism. Sidney Lumet, future cinematographer, would go on to say, Sidney flips if he sees a look that's too artsy. 12 Angry Men is a very contained teleplay, and I'm glad they didn't screw with that when it came to making it into a movie. They also weren't afraid to make sure we felt the heat and the lack of air conditioning, with sweat dripping down all of the men's faces, even juror number 4 who claims he doesn't sweat, as a way to show us how much the odds are against the jury even staying in this room to start with. The film was nominated for Best Director, Best Picture, and Best Screenplay at the 30th Academy Awards, and is the second best courtroom drama according to AFI's top 10 list, second only to To Kill a Mockingbird.
We can assume that the body hit the floor just as the train went by. Therefore, the train had been roaring by the old man's window a full 10 seconds before the body hit the floor. The old man, according to his own testimony, I'm going to kill you, body hitting the floor a split second later, would have had to hear the boy make this statement with the yell roaring past his nose. It's not possible he could have heard it.
Before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Then hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Super chats are now open. If you have any pressing questions, send us a super chat, which helps me maintain the expenses for the show, which I am obligated by the rules of the Geneva Convention to stop everything and ask the panel. Another way to help us out is to become a patron and give us money every month. In exchange, you get access to all of our after parties, bonus content, and we'll tell you even more movies we watched recently. Patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. We have a Movie Night Extravaganza Discord. There's an invite link in the episode description, and we have a Letterboxd HQ account. So those are 2 more places to follow along with us. Okay, let me introduce the illustrious panel. Conan Neutron is the host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and the frontman for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. You can check out his music and hopefully buy some at neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Conan's latest album, The Way of the Neutron, is available on Bandcamp March 20th. Pre-order it today. Kristina Oakes is a co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and a Twitch streamer. You can find her streaming at twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics. All of her social media accounts are also at Cosmopolitics. She's on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and even occasionally on Letterboxd. I, of course, am your host and juror number 8, Forrest Miller. It's always hard to keep personal prejudice out of a thing like this.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is.
Podcast. That's what I meant. It's always hard to keep personal.
No, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not to tip my hand too early, but this is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I mean, it's one of the greats.
It is. Well, and this one of the few films I can actually smell. Well, when you think about the enclosed space, just performances, writing, and direction, there's not a single flashback in this. Like, you get everything about the case, you get everything in the trial without a single flashback. That's incredible.
Not only is there not a single flashback, according to Sidney Lumet, the time that you're watching them in the courtroom is like the time that, like, in his mind is the time the actual thing takes, right? Like, there's no like, it never jumps forward or anything like that.
Right. It's all what there's a word for it where it's just like the time that you see on the screen is the time it's actually passing in life, right? Crazy. And they managed to you hear everything about the trial, you hear everything about, you learn everything about the jurors, you learn everything about the case, and it's incredible. There's a lot of movies that try to do this, and sometimes they get some aspect of it, but God, it's so badass. I didn't realize it was the number 2 of the Letterboxd top 250 movies of all time.
Really?
But
like highest rated? Like
like the ones that are like the highest rated movies on Letterboxd. Harakiri actually number 1, which I love. But
I remember,
and Come and See is 3rd, which is hilarious because I take that IMDb.
I can't remember if it was 12th grade English or 11th grade English, but 1 year in English class, right? And I had no idea until more recently that this was originally a teleplay. Like, I kind of assumed it was a play that they put, which also I feel like it's funny to look back on something like Westinghouse Studio One, because you realize like television as a medium, when a lot less people had TVs and it was less of a mass medium, right? Like it's more of a medium in the 50s for for at least middle class people, right? Like they were doing a lot of plays on these shows as anthology series, but like I thought it was something that because it's been on Broadway multiple times since then.
It has
play.
Of course, for all the reasons I just mentioned, it's a good movie. Is like it's a great
Simple
play,
set.
right? Yeah, I mean it's an acting smorgasbord. Right, like every role is fantastic. Everyone is like lived in and has a deep interiority. Even like the horrible racist Ed Begley Jr.'s dad. It's amazing also that it coming out in 1957, right? That this is deep in McCarthyism, right? Of course. Like how could you not? And I mean, AFI, it's like it's like their top 10 list, I think, something like along those lines. But I think the Library of Congress noted it in the National Film Registry. And but AFI was it was after To Kill a Mockingbird as the second best courtroom drama ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But To Kill a Mockingbird, as we mentioned, great, but also it's
not the center point of the story.
It's not the right reason we didn't pick it isn't because it's not awesome. It's because we're trying to focus on the aspects of the judicial system, the procedure, exactly.
Yeah,
and,
like to the point, I guess I was like slowly meandering towards To Kill a Mockingbird too, right? Another thing that everybody kind of learns in either like 11th or 12th grade English. I learned
10th grade for me.
All right. Well, I'm just one year.
Well, you are in the South, but maybe.
We're supposed to be learning that in college. Are you kidding me?
They're trying to teach you all that
down here.
But yeah, like I think that this too, because I remember in I think it was 11th grade, they handed us the script for 12 Angry Men pretty much, and we read it as like a class.
Oh God,
I was like in a class with like a smaller class size, so there was like 12 of us. Or maybe like a couple more. So we literally like
well that helps when you're doing 12 Angry Men to have 12.
Yeah.
Well, if you're down a guy and someone's like running around the other side of the table to be another part, it's gonna be kind of weird.
There might have been a couple. There might have been a couple more, but like it was a small enough class size that that like pretty much everybody had a role. So we would each read the thing for 12 Angry Men. The original Westinghouse one is an hour. Then this one is an hour and a half, obviously. And then they adapted it again as like a William Friedkin remake, and that's 2 hours. But still, like it's a contained unit.
Yeah. First time I saw this was in 9th grade peer mediation because conflict resolution, and that's like a major.
Really?
Yeah, that was a major part of like.
Were you mixing it up, Kristina? Were you?
No, we were
throwing hands.
I was the mediator. I was always playing mediator.
Oh, okay, all right.
The Libra in me had to find that balance,
Sure.
So yeah, we watched it. Outside like peer mediation was learning about like how to like handle situations, fights without being physical. And so we watched 12 Angry Men as a way to, learn about, how to, keep together and whatever. But I was like one of the few movies in peer mediation that I remember besides Life is Beautiful and like a Peter, Paul and Mary documentary. So
They taught you about Peter, Paul, and Mary and mediation
because they did all
being in a band is kind of like peer mediation.
They were doing all that folksy children's stuff, but in the 90s. So yeah, we were watching like Peter, Paul, and Mary stuff. But yeah, 12 Angry Men, that was good because I was like, oh, Henry Fonda.
Why Life is Beautiful? You know what? Never mind. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm asking questions I don't care about the answers to. It's a terrible way to start. Well, that's interesting because I think Henry Fonda, who he's so great in this, and
Father Jane.
He was not we can thank him for that too. But the film didn't make a profit, right? So like he never received like a salary, but like he always said that it was like one of the best things he ever did, like including Grapes of Wrath.
I didn't realize that he was the one that started Orion Pictures, which was still like it's still operating, I think, to this day. But this was the first project that he came because they're like, it's like a United Artists, which is the one that Charlie Chaplin and all of them did, where it's like they wanted to own and produce their own material outside of the studio system. So he started his own offshoot of United Artists because United Artists had done so well It was
right.
Mary-
So he was acting in this and also producing this. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's and which is great because I mean I think like also thing about Henry Fonda is that he notoriously hated watching himself on film.
Yeah.
So
to the point where when they finally finished the cut of this, right? He sat down, he watched I think 5 minutes of it. He saw he saw the beginning of it, and then as soon as they went into the jury room, he was like, "It's great, it's perfect," and ran out of the room.
Peace.
I hate it when actors are like, I don't watch my own films. I'm like, what's the point in acting? If you know what your performance is going to be like, you know what's going to be in the film. Why not bother to look?
I mean,
what do you do when you're at the premiere?
Yeah,
Go to the bar.
He was very I think he was very shy and very like self. I think he didn't want to get into his own head too much.
Yeah, but still, that's the one thing I'm like, I would love watching myself be like, yeah, I suck there. Why couldn't I have done that?
But that's not how everybody deals with things too. And also it's possible to have to be very skilled as an actor, but also not even be an extrovert. And that sounds weird, but like it does happen. And there are people that do feel that way.
Yeah.
Good on him for recognizing that, I guess. And he wasn't weird about it.
Well, it's just you have to have a lot of faith in.
Behold my dress.
You have to have a ton of faith in the people you work with, right? Like that really is it. If you know that you're working with people that are really great, if you know that, I mean, which he took a chance on Sidney Lumet, but I mean, there's a lot of people that worked on this with him, like Reginald Rose and stuff. They'd all been kind of doing TV production for a long time, so he had to have faith in them that the movie would come out well. And I think as long as you have faith in your collaborators that the movie's going to come out well, you can just say, I don't want to watch, it's probably going to be a good.
Well, and this is such a collection of that guy actors too. I mean, like I think it's Joseph Sweeney is the old man. I think it's like his last role, but it's kind of one of those noted films where you just get a bunch of like badass character actors together and like let them go, and just like the script is like so good that as long as you have some kind of vision for how you're going to do it, then it works great. Great thing with this is that how. Sidney Lumet, who obviously I love. I mean, I'm a huge fan. He's made some of my favorite movies of all time. But it starts off very much the everything's eye level with like wide angle lenses. So it's like you have like greater distance between everybody, right? And then as the film goes, it goes further down and further down until it's like shot below level of the eye. And like with telephoto lenses, so it gets more claustrophobic and sweaty and like uncomfortable as it gets more intense. And it's such a small thing, but man, what a great way to do when you're just in one room. I mean, there's like, other than 3 minutes, like 2 minutes at the beginning, like a minute at the end, like it's all in the one room. So like what a great way to shoot that. And to get the feelings of, the frustration and like the heat that's happening here. And
keeps spraying.
Yeah, like did you get like again like go back to the comment that I put up that says you can one of the few movies you can actually smell. Great, I agreed with that. It's like that would suck.
Spray.
Everybody would want to be like out of that room as quickly as possible.
Did they film that in one room? Because it reminded me of like when they were shooting the interrogation scenes in Oppenheimer. Because they're like, instead of building a set, we were in one tiny room, and it was just but Chris liked to keep it cold, and the camera was like right in Killian's face, and it's like, oh god, how like claustrophobic you have to have felt.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously there's a side room which is the bathroom. So they go into there a couple times, but besides that, and besides the scene where they're actually in the courtroom and the judge is there, like it's all in that same room. I don't think you could cut to different places if you wanted to. It's just because of how claustrophobic.
Right, exactly. Really put the camera in.
I don't know if he was to this point yet, but Sidney Lumet, at least by later in his career, right when he was getting towards the end of his life, when he was getting honored a bunch of places. I was watching an interview where he said his knowledge of lenses was actually encyclopedic, like in his mind. Like
you can tell. Like look at all. This movie, it's probably deployed. I was gonna say obviously it's probably not the best case, but like he's so good at it. Like he's so, and in a way that you may not even know that's why this goes so hard and like why this looks so cool. But I mean, also you got to realize like it's something that's been often emulated now. But there was nobody doing this around. Even Hitchcock wasn't doing like some of these things. And in fact, I think it's funny that like one of the things I think Fonda came in and was bitching about like the outside, like the outside of the. He's like, that looks like terrible. You know, Hitchcock has better ones or whatever. And it was like one of those things where he's like,
it's like
it'll be good when we get it done. Don't worry about it.
Like, you don't
Which is
wanna
great
actually
because
do
it's
that
like
too
this is like
much.
one of the greatest films of all time. So obviously it worked
Yeah.
out just freaking fine, right? But like
Yeah.
to be like, that kind of looks like crap. Well, you're not. People aren't gonna be focused on that if you're doing your job.
Rope definitely comes to mind, by the way. As
Sure,
rather
that's
than
another
something
great
else,
one
but-
room.
Yeah.
One room ish movie, right?
Yeah. Well,
No,
and
it's fine.
the contained way that they do the claustrophobia throughout that by the end of that movie.
Yeah. I think the one shot that I remember in the beginning is when they actually show the son. I'm like, that little
Yeah.
twink is responsible for murdering his dad?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah. Well,
The
that's
Timothy
the whole thing, right?
Chalamet of 1957.
And
I
that's
know.
the only movie. That's the only movie apparently that kid was in. I think because I looked at
Yeah.
his Wikipedia page. There's nothing else on there. But
It's like, hey, we need a kid that looks innocent.
those wide eyes, right? You're supposed to
Yes.
be like. He looks so scared, and like, of course he is,
Yeah.
because they're gonna pull the switch if they vote guilty, and like,
Yeah.
but like that kid's like very wide eyes. Like you think to yourself, like, yeah, that kid looks so innocent. There's no way he could have done it.
I think also it's great. I mean, this is peak sweaty dude cinema, but think of like Dog Day Afternoon. Think of like Network, which I mean, Peter Finch, as Howard Beale is peak, like sweaty street profit guy. Serpico even is a sweat. That whole you can the beads of sweat coming off of the numerous amount of facial hair in that movie.
I mean, Dog Day Afternoon is probably is up there on one of the sweatiest movies that I can think of.
Oh, it's so because everyone's locked in a freaking bank together.
Yeah,
like what are you
the
gonna do?
scenes the scene where they actually lock all the women in the vault.
Yeah,
and like the hostages in the vault. Yeah, he's great at doing the sweatiness. It's funny that they're like, oh, like the gritty, real part of his cinema, and I think Network is kind of a break from his traditional kind of stuff because that movie
it was seen as a time as a break, but if you look through the rest of his career, it's dead on. It's just what he was choosing to attack with Patty Chayefsky's script was like there was a deeper multi-layeredness to it that was less just like grounded lenses and shots and also more this is being transgressive in a way that's still going to echo multi-decades later.
Well, he's also, coming out of TV, then doing a movie like Network, which is kind of the quintessential, this is how TV has fried all of our brains, or like, this is how TV has framed our reality kind of movie. Like that makes a lot of sense. But it's kind of, it's funny that I think it, from that, that gritty real here, right? Like
he did that before anyone on the panel, including myself, was born.
Yeah.
Which is depressing because it's like, oh yeah.
And it still gets quoted so much.
Yeah, and it's still kind of like too accurate in a lot of ways, right? It's like, okay.
Yeah, but I think this movie, right, like the like one of the bits I think that's like definitely the smartest is when they have the guy that's they kind of just casually go, oh, I don't sweat, and then as Henry Fonda is grilling him about what movie did you see, what did you do the day before that, like trying to raise doubts in his mind, the bead of sweat just goes down his face.
Yeah, speaking of like sweat, it reminds me of this. Oh god, this is such a funny like storyline on soap operas where characters come back from the dead, right? But instead, it's someone disguised as them, not with plastic surgery, but a mask. So one technique they did to unmask the guy was turn up the heat up, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, everyone's sweating, but you, dude."
Yeah.
It reminds me of actually what it reminded me of is the Key and Peele sketch where the girls where Jordan Peele's girlfriend checks his browser history and
he's the meme and it's just straight. A lot of Key and Peele stuff's popping on my algorithm for some reason on YouTube, but it does remind me of like
when he has the sweat. But I mean, it's so sweaty by the end of it though. And you can feel the weather, like despite the fact that it's a black and white movie, right? And it's like
in the dead of summer or something. Right?
Well, no, it's the hottest day of the year at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, that's right.
This is meant to be the hottest day of the year, and that is such a brilliant way of going.
Remake that movie today.
It's such a brilliant way of starting it out. Like the odds against them staying in this room are stacked, not because any of them are even particularly reactionary or shitty, as you find out they are as soon as they open their mouths, right? But just the fact that it's the hottest day of the year, there's no air conditioning in this room. You're like, oh, the odds are like against them. Like you can't even think when it's that fucking hot.
Well, and that gives so much credit to the Reginald Rose screenplay, right? Because you're setting up a situation that not only have to like have this incredibly important decision that some people are taking more seriously than others, but you're in this completely adversarial. Like, how can you even like think correctly when you're like in a room that like barely doesn't even have air conditioning, and you're like, Jesus Christ, can we just get the hell out of here as soon as possible?
I remember like even being in school, right? And there's sometimes where they're not going to turn on the air conditioning yet, and you're in math class or something, and the room is tiny, and you're like, Jesus fuck, how am I supposed to even like remember what I'm learning?
Like 40 students in one classroom. There really should have been like another teacher to like bring in like to keep bringing those extra students, and it's just a nightmare.
And it's like at a time, like, you know, I mean, I think now they have like a lot of those battery powered air conditioning thing. You can put a fan on yourself or something. But even units, right, it's like it's like the 50s. It's like, I don't know. It's hard.
The window units broke. Great.
And nobody's stopping. And like if they're only in there an hour, right? And because of who this kid is, because of his background, because he's like a poor immigrant kid, it seems like. Because of that, right? No one's gonna like if they were only in there for half an hour and they were like, "Oh, he's guilty." Nobody would blink an eye, right? Like so, like the odds of them staying in that room are also the fact that like they're incentivized to do this quickly.
Yeah, imagine they did this like with like about Emmett Till's story. Like that would piss me off because that movie would be like 2 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a common thing with that kind of jury back then, right? Like,
yep.
And that's one of the reasons why, again, so it's important to note that the Reginald Rose screenplay, he was nominated for an Oscar, and I think he won an Emmy for the television. Yeah. He was nominated for an Oscar, lost to Bridge on the River Kwai. It was like the Bridge on the River Kwai year.
Oh, damn.
Which Bridge on the River Kwai, also good as hell, but not as good as this.
Yeah.
Lumet actually
technically, right?
That's
like,
Lon Swanson's favorite movie.
It's such a famous technical script. Like I could see them kind of
you could have seen that being like that's because like Peyton Place was it was like good nominees was like it should have probably gotten a 12 Angry Men because it's all about the script. But Lumet lost to David Lean for Bridge on the River Kwai, and Henry Fonda and it lost for Best Picture and there was a nominated for the three. But Three Faces of Eve, Joanne Woodward won. So that's pretty good. Kind of weak in the actress category, if you ask me, for that year. But like, you know,
who was that?
I like her in that.
It's
for supporting actress. It was like let me. I'll tell you right now. It's Deborah Kerr, who I usually like, but heaven knows Mr. Allison, which I don't care about. Anna Magnani, Wild as the Wind. Elizabeth Taylor in Rain Tree Country, fine. Lana Turner, who I love, in Peyton Place, but fine.
Before or after her husband got murdered. Anyway. That's kind of a weak year for women. Not a good year for women. 1957.
Well, not a good year for women in this movie either because it's only dudes.
Yeah.
It's also
that's why I was like, at first when we start watching this, I'm like, I'm really like a movie about men, really? And they're like, trust me. And I'm like,
yeah, finally, a movie about angry men.
Also the Nights of Siberia year.
Which is so good. Like again, that is actually my favorite Fellini. There's a lot of cool stuff that comes out that year, but a lot of it is not. I mean, actually, Nights of Siberia won for foreign language. Oh, cool. Okay, awesome. But,
for English language, Bridge on the River Kwai swept.
Yeah, it was the Bridge on the River Kwai.
Best picture, best director, best actor for Alec Guinness. Damn, they really they let that sweep. But this was,
which is funny because we did Three Faces of Eve on this show like a million years ago. But John Woodward is great in that, and I don't know.
I think it's interesting. That's like the 30th Academy Awards, but it's
a good decade for women.
But it's the 7th Emmy Awards when it went up there in 1954. And they obviously modeled the Emmys after the Oscars. They modeled all of those awards, kind of Grammys, like after originally the Oscars as like the big first entertainment one, and it did well. Like it swept that category. There were two separate categories. There was standalone, right, where it's like each play could be nominated from something like Studio One, and then there was like a series, and it kind of swept that standalone category.
Yeah. Well, like with the Emmys, TV was starting to become a thing in the 50s, and it was like the new medium. And so it kind of made films change how they would, like, do we want to make 3-hour-long movies? Should we keep movies an hour and a half?
Well, not just
people's attention spans were changing at the time.
Well, but it's not just that it changed movies, it changed plays, because suddenly you had these things where a lot of these playwrights that might not, because a play, when it opens up, it takes like a long time to kind of get the whole production together, but they could do the live readings of these plays, and they could have actors, they would do these whole series, and you could have your plays that way. Of course, once, TV became like a mass media, because it wasn't as much at this point, right? Like, because less people, you had to pay a lot of money to get a TV set to start with. Now you got to pay, not very much. Anybody can really have a TV set. So it's like
poor people and their flat screen TVs.
When it's like when it was less of this, when it was like this, very, very bourgeois middle class medium, like they would be, well, you might not be able to make it to a playhouse, but like you probably want to see something more.
Yeah. And a lot of the stories being told were of like upper middle class people. And also too, TV was a way for a lot of actors to get their start. I remember when I was watching a biography about Natalie Wood, the first like TV thing she ever did was with James Dean before he ever did Rebel Without a Cause or East of Eden.
Yeah,
like it was a good medium.
Your podcaster should have been the first name for this show when we had the time.
When there was like 100,000 people on screen. Yeah, exactly. By the way, shout out to Boris Coffin, the cinematographer for this, who also did On the Waterfront and another brand new movie that Lumet did, Fugitive Kind, which is really good. Yeah. But he's very undersung and does a lot in here. And also, I love that actual courtrooms are kind of run down and crappy looking, and like things don't really work that well, and it's sort of like, so whenever I see a movie that tries to play something and it's like everything looks really nice, I'm like, come on, dude, it doesn't look like that.
Well, that's like the Friedkin one, because I was watching some of that today. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it has that look of like 90s kind of public buildings where everything is very brown.
Yeah,
and like
and
everything's kind of Whereas this is kind of just run down, and of course it's black and white, so you can imagine it probably is kind of thing, but like material wise, right? Like,
but that goes back to the lenses, right? Because the way Lumet does the final shot, it's like the whitest lens in the entire movie. Like, and he has everything like getting like lower and tighter throughout the rest of the film until they actually reach a verdict, and then like it's like you get this like massive like opening of space that like. It's like, oh wow, it's such a subtle thing, but it's just good, really good filmmaking.
Yeah. And No, go ahead.
They also forget too, Sidney Lumet has like a family legacy because of Lena Horne. Like their grandkids, great grandkids, they're all I think one of them, Cannavale. I think one of them, Bobby Cannavale, they're all he's a well-known actor, believe it or not. He's done quite a few movies. Like he was on Third Watch, he was in Ant-Man, he's been in quite a few movies. Like a lot of people don't understand that Sidney Lumet has a legacy within his family, and it's pretty surprising how that goes unnoticed within his work.
I didn't know that Bobby Cannavale was related to Sidney Lumet.
Yep.
He was Sidney Lumet was married to, I found this out, and then I had to like do the math, and I realized, so right before Gloria Vanderbilt was married to her husband that she ended up having Anderson Cooper with. She was married to Sidney Lumet for a decade in the 50s and early 60s.
Well,
he could have been Anderson Cooper's dad.
Yeah, so the daughter of Sidney Lumet and Lena Horne, Jenny Lumet's married to Bobby Cannavale, if I remember right.
Yeah,
and she worked on some of the Star Trek stuff as like a producer, and yeah, there's definitely a legacy as far as that goes, but it's not one that even Sidney Lumet had a hard time like getting his movies made like later on in life, which is crazy when you think about like dude made 12 Angry Men and Network. And still had a tough time like making movies in like the late.
Well, look at fucking like all the shit that's being pushed on Netflix now. That new movie with Millie Bobby Brown, $320 million, and it's a flop on Netflix. Yet David Lynch couldn't get anything like Netflix, like even more Scorsese struggling. I'm like, these legendary directors are struggling. They should be the ones who are being prioritized first. Because we've seen what they can do.
Before The Devil Knows You're Dead, which is the last one that he did, like, it was obviously great, critically lauded. Great. Also, by the way, Marissa Tomei in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Albert Finney, Ethan Hawke, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like, it's star-studded, but like, I remember when that came out, which is like something. It's like 2007 or so. Like, people they're like, yeah, cool, and it's like, no, this guy like made like two of the best movies in cinema.
Yeah,
like. This guy should be like never have to like look for financing again, but nope, that's not the way the world works.
Especially when they get older, it's like meanwhile Francis. But then again, he put his own money from his winery to film Megalopolis. But it just infuriates me that some of these legendary actors or like legendary directors, they're not, people find like their stuff to be too weird, and I'm like. Really, like even John Waters.
We're in the era of slop, right? Like we're in the era.
Yeah.
What something like Netflix is incentivized to do is to create a lot of things that are very forgettable. Like,
but that's the idea is like people still talk about the golden age of television. That's long over. We're in the tin age of television.
Yeah.
There's happens to be some things that are good. But imagine being Sidney Lumet and you do Serpico, and you do Dog Day Afternoon, and you do Network, and then you do The Wiz.
Yeah, he's on down, and written by Joel Schumacher, no less.
Yeah. I mean, it's not without its charm, but who?
Well, wait, but that's why. Wait, Lena Horne.
But then it's the verdict,
too.
and the verdict, like it was on the as I mentioned before, verdict was on the B tier of when we were talking about for this month because it's a total banger in a very different way than 12 Angry Men is, and like. But it's
like Sidney Lumet. All these, and then The Wiz.
called the Ishtar effect, I guess. Although I don't know. I mean, he also did
Michael Jackson, and it was okay.
Yeah, I mean,
one of the big things about creating, which like Netflix gave money to obviously like Scorsese to do The Irishman. Like some of their stuff is like premiere, but if you're going to do some like really good artistic cinema, right? You're gonna have to pay money also to distribute it, put it into theaters. The director
and tell people about it too. I mean, Nicholas Winding Refn allegedly the second time he was basically offered the David Lynch Twin Peaks: The Return deal, and he got boned by Amazon with Too Old to Die Young. He got boned by Netflix for Copenhagen Cowboy. Both of them redacted the thing to a black site, and it's like the best thing he's done. And I mean, I'm not saying that guy can't be annoying. He certainly can, but it's amazing that it happened twice with different streaming series.
And these days, a lot of streaming shows and movies are making dialogue so that you can just be on your phone or on your computer and
second string cinema.
Attention to and pay attention.
I got so mad when I heard that term. I'm like, that makes me viscerally angry.
Yeah.
Well, and
that's why those directors like Scorsese with The Irishman, you don't have films like that. Like that are that popular on Netflix, unless it's from like a Scorsese type, because he's not going to do that stupid shit. They're not going to do that.
I want that Martin Scorsese feeling.
Yes, exactly.
Well, but I think you have to be someone. I mean, hasn't David Fincher have like an exclusive because he did The Killer, and he Fincher's just kind of locked in like the Netflix closet basically right now, which is crazy to think about because that's another dude that's like done, some of the biggest movies of the past 20 years, like. Seven, Fight Club, Hello, Zodiac, Social Network.
By the way, I'm stealing just to get us back to 12 Angry Men. I'm stealing Stevie's 12 Angry Podcaster line. I'm calling the after party.
After party 12 Angry Podcaster.
But even a film like this, very very simple and easy to pay attention to because there's not the main transitions happening. The dialogue's very simple. It's set in one setting. It's it's a small cast.
Well, and it's a social picture, like they have.
It's a miracle of a movie, though, because like a lot of movies try to do that, and they don't do it that well. I'm more going to argue that half of that is what the last Clint Eastwood movie was, and I liked it. Some people seem to really hate it, but it just had like a twist, right? And I get that, but Juror Number 2 was good. And the twist, honestly, the twist is better than the story. Like I enjoyed it, but like the twist is like, what if the jury that you're on to be a juror for like what if that the high profile murder that you're in gives you the moral dilemma because you were part of the interaction, basically, right? Without spoiling it, and that's Nicholas Holt's character. And I was like, oh, that's badass. That's like a really cool like twist to that.
Yeah.
Because it's like basically he's like, oh, I may have been like it wouldn't be this guy, it may have been me indirectly, and like so then you see him doing a 12 Angry Men, but also like looking out for his own ass at the same time. And I liked it.
I love films like that. It kind of reminds me of Hard Candy with Patrick Wilson and Elliot Page in a way, because in the end there's a twist to that movie.
Right. But totally. But I think about that, and when I saw it, the first thing I thought of was like, oh, so Clint's trying to do something that does like 12 Angry Men, but without just redoing it. Because it's like, how many times have we seen this done? And it's like, it's not as good.
The one guy stands up against the others, and
it's become a cliche in the same way as I'm just a country lawyer, like
I'm a bleeding heart liberal.
Like we're definitely going through all the movies that start with cliches.
Henry Fonda with blue hair.
Well, no, you see what they're barista looking motherfuckers now on the right, so the liberals look normal now, but.
I think that also like looking back at something like Three Faces of Eve, right? And it's another movie that has same year and it's under $1 million.
Joanne Woodward.
And it's kind of a social picture, right? Like they had that concept where
didn't her and Paul Newman partake in sex parties too in Hollywood? Like, good for them.
But like it's the same kind of concept where there's more of a social dynamic to what they're trying to do with the movie. Because Reginald Rose originally, this movie comes out of an 8-hour jury session he had on an extremely hot day in the summer where everyone screamed at each other for 8 hours. Over a murder trial.
Chewed up nickels and spitting out dimes, man. That's great.
But he came to the realization that actually not that many people ever serve on one of these important juries. By the way, Lee J. Cobb also in Three Faces of Eve. Completely forgot about that.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the time when actors could do like 4 or 5 pictures a year and be like, not a big deal. I mean, Willem Dafoe gets away with it, but no one does it today.
he's been the only one.
Were they, since this is a that guy actor type of film and there's only like 12, I bet you there was like lists of so many different actors that were probably up for all these roles.
Yes, yeah, I mean, let me I'll look that up while we're talking about it and see if there's castings. Because I don't know how much they had the ability to do that in a way, because it was like, this is a movie that I think Henry Fonda was paying for a lot of it out of pocket.
He totally was. And I love it's Jack Klugman, too. Jack Klugman's who's juror number 5. His character's great, but it's like before it was even, Oscar and The Odd Couple or Quincy or any of that. Like, it's like, it's like young Jack Klugman, and he's one of the dudes. It's great. And I think that the rehearsals for this must have been like crazy to do.
There's a whole trend online where people are there's multiple of these on Reddit and on IMDb where people do their own alternate castings and they go, who would you cast in 12 Angry Men? That's kind of interesting.
Okay.
Oh God. Doing that, today, but I feel like people be like, they made 12 Angry Men woke, and I'm like,
well, the freaking version, I liked. I thought it was interesting because they, instead of doing 12 white jurors, which I think works really well in the 1950s one.
Well, technically the one's Italian, right? So, but
but back then they assimilated and became white.
No, but some of them, and I think a couple of them are like Jewish immigrant types, right, from the slums, like at that time. But like they did it with half black, half white, and then an immigrant, like a Latino immigrant, is the that's clearly who's on trial. So like when they say them, it's like a staying in America versus there's whatever. Like it becomes more about immigration and like that's the cycle of it. And I thought that
cool, but that's not this movie. So this movie also shows class, which is something that you don't see a lot of.
These days, the freaking one does too, but it kind of.
But we're not talking about it. We're talking about this movie. So let's talk about this movie instead. How about that?
Yeah,
because I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to it.
Yeah. No, I just like in terms of like what you could do with a more modern remake, right? I In terms of this one, yeah, I think it does a very good job with class because you have like the reactionary guy is like a small business owner, and it's like
which is Ed Begley Jr.'s dad, which I love because I was that's
you mean Dr. Linkletter from Young Sheldon?
Lee J. Cobb is the small business owner. I think I don't know. Do we ever find out what Ed Begley Sr.'s job is?
He's just his job is being a terrible person and business is good.
His job is just being racist. But they also have like they have the Robert Webber guy that's like an advertising executive. That's the dumbest one there.
Yeah. What's the and the one guy
Warden.
is like, I made 27 grand selling marmalade or something. It was like, wow.
I wish I had 27 grand selling. Never mind.
But the Lee J. Cobb character, right, who's like the most reactionary, who really wants the guy to work because he has his own problems with his own son. His whole thing is that he has like 37 employees and he works at the Beck and Call message company.
Oh, we can't afford to give them health care, right?
Like I don't think that's even a question in the 1950s, but
definitely not.
Yeah, but his like kind of like he's the most reactionary one, and he's the one that's I mean, I'm guessing probably kind of the richest out of all of them. He's like the small bourgeois holder, and like it goes across the spectrum from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that. So the was it actually in that 97 one? It's 97, right? But like, isn't George C. Scott the lead J. Cobb character?
Yep. And he's also it's cool. The same. They keep the script the same, so it's like he's also doing the Beck and Call company.
Nice. French tone.
I mean, that's kind of awesome because those two. Yeah, they're very interesting. They're both very interesting dudes, but not like the same kind of guy, really. So
it's amazing that they didn't get like since I didn't know that this was originally like a TV film technically, and with French O'Tone, he was more of like a B movie actor who did a lot of TV. He was married to Joan Crawford.
Yeah, he's both famous as Joan Crawford's ex-husband.
Yeah, and she would have dinner with all her ex-husbands together when they were all still alive. But I'm surprised they didn't think about having like him or like trying to they knew that they would have to like let's cast different actors because we don't want people trying to find like. Well,
so they cast different actors, but like the old man, right? It's his last role in this. The old man is actually in. He's in the TV too as the old man. But I mean, they're only 3 years apart. But which is the crazy turnaround time, like 1954 to 1957.
It is wild that like so Lee Cobb was because he's a doctor in Three Faces of Eve, which is the same year. And then he's like, the Juror 3 in here. And that, again, that is like Willem Dafoe style stuff. We don't think about, but like people just don't, they don't do it in like all time bangers, I guess, is what I'm driving at with that. Because it's,
he was also in Garment Jungle, which I haven't seen, but
I don't know what that is.
He's the star of Garment Jungle, which is a noir movie that year too.
Garment Jungle.
He's in three
like
different
a good band name.
totally. Different movies that year.
Yeah, all right. Busy little guy, that Lee Cobb.
He was nominated for a Golden Globe that year. For being juror number 3.
I think it's kind of interesting too that while it's implied, you can read into the implication of who the suspect, like what ethnicity they are. They don't say ever, and I think that's actually pretty strong because then it kind of makes it a little more like it doesn't actually matter. It's more just like you're looking at like a couple people with internalized prejudices. Some people more in a class-based nature, some people more like a personal animus, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that's something I actually noticed because I like 4th time I've seen it, I think, something like that. And that was something I was like, man, they never actually say like they. I think they mentioned that he's like not, European, right? And that, but like they don't actually say the entire time.
Yeah.
Which now would be like, it's a cop out, but like in 1957, it's like that's probably the stronger move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because again, then you end up being like, like we all love One Foot of the Cuckoo's Nest, but.
By the way, I totally forgot that,
sorry,
Lee J. Cobb, his one of his most
Bird Month extravaganza.
Right.
One of his most famous roles, right? Lee J. Cobb was Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman.
Death of a Salesman. That's right. Yeah.
George Scott, when they reopened Death of a Salesman, George C. Scott was Willie Loman when they reopened it the second time on Broadway, and then he was also juror number 3 in the 1997 one. He's kind of he was kind of following along the footsteps of Lee J. Cobb for a lot of his career.
That's funny. And the Justice Sonia Sotomayor actually said that like this is one of her inspirations for going into law, which is
but some of her voting is a little.
Well, that's because she was inspired by 12 Angry Men.
Not Legally Blonde.
Imagine I hope we never get a justice who's like, I was inspired to go into law
because of Legally Blonde.
Oh, my cousin Benny.
I'd be like, well, my cousin Vinny was Antonin Scalia actually called the guy who wrote it, right? He brought him in and like talked to him about how he said that was his favorite trial movie, and he said, "Oh, that's your favorite movie." He said, "No, it's my favorite trial movie." Like,
yeah, exactly. Don't get too ahead of yourself.
Well, that's a little.
Right. Okay,
that's interesting.
But
I mean, I'm not like what I'm just saying. I think it's interesting when like the stuff has like waves of influence, like later down the line, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, this is the first one that we've done that isn't on like the whatever, like the American Bar Association lawyer movie list, right? Because you never see the lawyer in this. They have to actually pick up the slack for the lawyer that doesn't do shit. But
yeah, that's true.
The concepts of things, right? Reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is not whether you think the person's innocent. Reasonable doubt is there any way to think that this person might not have done it? And in our legal system, you know, we're supposed to presume people are innocent until proven guilty, and of course that's never the case. I mean, the media tries people as much as the court tries people, right? Or like public opinion tries people.
But the burden of proof is on the prosecution always.
Yeah,
like it's not guilty until proven innocent.
OJ, but he was guilty, but not a good example.
Pootie Tang was Scalia's favorite movie.
You know what? That's probably true. I'll believe
it is like kind of a profound thing where reasonable doubt is a very different standard of evidence than guilt or innocence. You know, like you're supposed to be making a case. Is there a way that this kind of like that someone couldn't have done this? And it's like we don't stick to that standard for public opinion because of course we don't like.
Well, and so that's one of the reasons, you know, like why the conceit of the movie, like why Henry Fonda's character like is making his case that like it isn't that he has to prove the innocence. He has to prove that, you know, the prosecution doesn't have it. The reasonable doubt. And we're so internal because again we've had like lifetimes of these shows with like they're running around, like the lawyers are running around, and you know it's like they're
trying to gather evidence.
Yeah, and then we even have like, you know, like the shiesty public defenders and not so shiesty public defenders. And so we kind of think about it as like
public defenders.
Right. And we think about it in terms of like, well, everyone knows that. It's like, well, we know it now. But in 1957, it was like, what is it? You know, when the guy, I let my boss do that.
I let my boss do my supposing.
Yeah, I was like, wow, different times, man. Wow.
All right, not to bring it up again, but like the 1997 one with James Gandolfini, it's so funny to hear him go, I let my boss do my supposing. But that is why this movie is interesting, because there is that social thing to it where it's like, not that many people are ever gonna, you know, just by the standard of how many of these crimes occur, like not everyone is ever going to serve on one of these juries. So it's like you do have to kind of drill into the head that it's reasonable doubt. It's not
and they don't want to do it. They're like, let's just say guilty and just get it over with. But then Henry Fonda's like, wait a minute.
It's so cool to go ahead.
I was gonna say he's the most lived up man of all time.
Yeah, that's why I'm over here like, I'm like, that's why I can't stand like the Casey Anthony trial. I'm like, she was fucking guilty. All the evidence is pointing to her, but the jury was like, nah, even though her car smelled like death and, you know, blah, 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 she did not murder her child. And like
just smells like that.
Some of the stuff that I'm over here thinking, you know, that's why there always needs to be that one juror who needs to stand the fuck up and convince the other 11.
And this is what every jury ever sense thinks that they're doing when they dissent about literally anything.
They
Because
do
this
think
is
they're
like
doing
the gold
12 Angry Men.
standard. This is the gold standard of like, no, he's right. He's right. And then you get to see, as they go on and they do the secret ballots and whatever, more and more people come to his cause. And the reason why is because there's all these facts and things that either were kind of blown past and people weren't considering, or, everyone's like rushing through. And that allows the flaws of the American judicial system to be kind of exposed and be like, well, how often does that happen? And people just really want to get to their baseball game.
Yeah,
a lot, I'm sure. Like,
and adding that dimension of like, it's the hottest day of the year, right? Like, so
people get the hell out of that room. I would want to get out of that room. You kidding me? Nightmare.
You start feeling like it's a little bit relatable that they're kind of, they're like, we just got to get this done. Like, we're sweating our fucking asses off at this point. And it's like, I get that. But like, also, it is kind of a profound thought. Like when Henry Fonda turns to him and he's like, if I was on trial for my life, like thinking about that level of empathy, like, of course you'd want the jury to look at every single piece of evidence. You'd want the jury to look at every single thing that could have happened, and like, even if it's the switchblade, even if it's looking at that again, even if it's looking at how fast the witness could have traveled, like all of these things, you think about how fast any other jury, and they say it within the movie, like any other jury would just have convicted him. And it's like,
it kind of reminds me of like a lot of trials where it's like, why wasn't this evidence brought in for the jury? And they're like, it was not corroborated evidence or evidence that got approved, because they can approve or disapprove like what evidence is used, and it can either definitely make or break the case. Kind of like with Cape Fear, like saying that the girl was promiscuous, but that still didn't give Max Key the permission to sexually assault her, like stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and a lot of judges, going with their own personal prejudices. They shouldn't, obviously, but they do, and that decides, what kind of, like, so much of that is up to the judge. But I like what they're talking about. What they say is as important as what they don't say, because they might be keeping stuff out of it that's that would seem more damning. But like but in every situation, right, there's stuff that would seem more damning if you put it a certain way, which is what lawyers are supposed to be good at, like arguing a case. If you argue it a certain way, you can make anybody seem guilty, or at least put a reasonable doubt the other way in someone's mind that, like, it sounds like the person could have
or especially if you're thinking about a case where there's actually a lot of witnesses and no one does anything, like that Jenny Genevieve, who is responsible for the 911. Obviously her her guy, the guy who murdered her was definitely guilty. And it's fascinating to me to see how some juries look at certain evidence that they ignore, or they're saying so obvious, but they don't still spend their time looking through the evidence, because sometimes jury deliberates for days.
Seeing a murder through like the windows of a train. Which had happened in this movie, where it's like, they saw through the train. It was like, all right, this old ass man got his crippled ass over to there in like under a minute to see this, and like I think that's so well done, where he kind of acts that out. And there's like, there's no way.
How long you been wearing glasses, huh?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Hasn't it been all three movies that have had a thing with glasses in them too?
I think so.
Yes.
Glasses are a big part of these. Trials.
Glasses not extravaganza. Movie night extravaganza brought to you by Lenscraft. Everyone.
That should be our sponsor. Yeah. But I like how you also don't. Like, it does this movie specifically as well to show the jury process, because you don't even really learn most of the dudes' names. Like, it's like, okay, that guy's a coach. That guy's clearly a bank teller. That guy owns, some sort of messenger business. This guy's a salesman. This guy is like, we have Don Draper at home. Like everybody has their own role in life, but it is a mix and match of people from different class systems, from different neighborhoods, from different worlds, really. And I think it does well to show that without kind of hitting you over the head over it.
Well, and the Cobb character, right? The most reactionary man in New York City. That guy in the beginning, he says that line. He's like, the guy says to him, like, "Oh, this is my first time serving on a jury," and it's clearly not his first time serving on a jury. Like,
liar!
How many fucking people have you
sent up the river? Yeah, exactly.
He's a public avenger.
By the way, and this is kind of the thing where I always bust balls anytime people like try to get out of jury duty. It's like, well, you're the reason why we have such a screwed up judicial system. Just so you know.
Yeah.
You are not personally culpable.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. But like, no, it's literally supposed to be a jury of your peers. So all you have are a bunch of like, retiree shut-ins.
Yeah.
Who believe anything Fox News tells you, then that's the reason why.
You're the reason why Casey Anthony got away with murder and OJ.
And it's also it's the zeitgeist, right? Like there's moments in time that are far more reactionary. There's moments in time in American society that are far more permissive. And this movie does a good job with it. Like if you're in a time where everyone already is induced to feeling like their city is completely filled with crime, and like more and more because of Fox News or because of the news and the way that we talk about crime and like all of these things, right? Crime is more
Local
of a feeling
news is the worst.
than it is a tangible.
And there's peer pressure that comes out of like that weird toxic masculinity too. That like, obviously they would not have the lexicon for that and all. But like look at how things change once there's a secret ballot, right? Which they still immediately, all right, who changed? Like what? Like well, the point of a secret ballot is you don't have like you
mistrial.
Exactly the opposite of the point. But like. No, but like the idea that like without the pressure of like these dudes that like some of them, all right, fellas, let's like I love. By the way, I love all that stuff. Like I love all of that late 40s, early 50s, just dudes like say guys, blah blah blah. Like whatever. Like I really dig it. I get it when people don't, but I really dig it. But I also like you have like the mousy bank teller guy, right? Who like clearly is like they're not bullying him necessarily, but they're not bullying him either. Yeah. And like there's all this kind of weird power dynamics between, especially a few of the jurors, to the other ones. It's like that's very well depicted.
Well, the advertising is clearly the mentally weakest kind of them, and everyone kind of jumps on that. But the second he's like, "Oh, all right, so I think not guilty," because he's clearly going with public opinion when it's
right. And they're like, "Well, why do you feel that way?" I'm like, "I don't know, I just do." And it's like, "Well, you have to have a reason." And it's like, do I?
And the other guy that the guy that wants to go
the Sam Cedar school debating, asking questions.
More than any other person, right? That wants to get out and go to like a baseball game. Like he's like,
all
he
wants to go to a
baseball
about,
game. Yeah, more than anyone I've ever seen in my life. Which sell your baseball tickets if you have jury duty that day. But I can get out of there. Right? It'll be fine. But that guy, right? Like when he says, "Oh, I think he's not guilty," he has to give. It is the toxic masculinity thing where he's like, "I just want to get out of here," and then he says, "Okay, I actually do think he's guilty," but he wasn't going to admit that. To everybody else in front of him, and he gets grilled by like I'm guessing he's like Ukrainian or something. The one guy that has the mustache that's like the immigrant guy,
George Voskovec. Yeah. It's really kind of hard to tell. I know that the actor himself is like a Czech American actor. So I don't know what role he's supposed to be. It could be Italian, could be fucking Ukrainian.
Well, the mustache,
vaguely ethnic.
Yeah, no,
it's the 50s.
I assumed that one of the Soviet countries, because the way that he says he's like, one of the things I think is best about this here democracy, and I'm like, classic Soviet, post-Soviet
Eastern Bloc energy, for sure.
but that guy's like, that's not an answer, and then that guy's suddenly getting pummeled by both sides because the guys on the he's guilty side are like,
hey, what do you mean?
Yeah, and then on the other side, it's like, well, we don't really want you just to say he's guilty. Like,
don't just say it's because everyone else is peer pressure. Yeah. And then like that, and oh god, that guy has like the most hilarious quotes too. Like he's just like, it's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, he has some real good ones.
And then there's the Jack Klugman guy, right? Like he's clearly supposed to be like a Jewish American from the slums, because this is the time like Jewish people were starting to leave the slums and then slowly became white. So they're knocking people. They're like, what these people are like, and I think that it's fascinating.
Sorry, I just found it. Let's throw it out on the stoop and see if the cat licks it up. And everyone's like, what? What did you say? He's like, the thing we all say.
What is that line?
I was like, what are you talking about, bro?
Well, he has some other line that he says too, where he's like, people are always saying something like, let's throw it out there and see if the building rises or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's like, what? Who is this dude? What's this guy's deal? Just, but like, I do like it because I feel like a lot of times movies like everyone is just oh, they're so smart and inquisitive and critical thinking. No, man, have you met people? Most people are dumb as hell.
Yes,
And
that's
I
why
don't
you
think
need
anyone
Henry Fonda.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone would ever accuse American juries of being smart as hell. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but I'm just saying, like, as they're portrayed in films, oftentimes, like it's
oh,
like
of course.
you want to give people meat.
What I'm
to
saying
the
is like
role.
a more realistic depiction, right? Like nobody would ever accuse an American jury of being the smartest people in the room. Take 12 of your neighbors.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Nope.
Not kidding. But I think that guy's so baffling. I love how this kind of like
crazy one-liners.
And like he thinks he's like, again, like I say, discount Don Draper, right? Because he thinks he's like the most charismatic dude in the room. It's like, dude, you're just kind of odd.
Yeah,
like you're real superficial.
Weird.
There's the concept of like a jury of your peers, right? Like that concept in American judiciary or whatever, right? Like if you're a black person in the South, like is a room full of white business owners a jury of your peers? I don't think it's not. You know what I mean? Like if you're in the situation and you're a poor immigrant and it's like 10 of 12 of the most nativist New Yorkers you've ever seen. Is that a jury of your peers? It isn't. And so like the concept that it's going to be like 12 people that are they're still like equal in status, or because that's not something.
And there's going to be the one guy that's just there. He's just there. Why is this dude here? I don't know. Democracy. Like it's just he's just a guy.
If you're questioning that, you're questioning freedom, buddy.
Right, well, like one of the crazy stories to come out of South Carolina recently is that a guy who was on death row for God knows how many years just decided firing squad. You don't got the gas, you don't got the drugs, just firing squad. And they actually, South Carolina wants to consider bringing that back as an actual way to execute those on death row. And I'm like, why? It's the South.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's Well, and that's why I think
the nitrogen thing that they've started doing lately. To be honest.
Okay, Blue Velvet.
I like E.G. Marshall's juror number 4 character though, because even though he's like a bit antagonistic, like it's like pretty much one of the most solid guilty votes the entire time. Like he's operating on reason, and he changes his vote like when it's okay. Like I'm with you now. He doesn't have like personal bias or animus. He has like the least baggage apparently than any one of them.
Yeah.
And the worst is obviously Jack Warden's character, because like all he gives a shit is about going to his baseball game.
Oh God, yeah. Yep.
But that's like the majority of the voting populace of the U.S. of A. Right? It's like they don't give it. It doesn't matter to them. They're not thinking about repercussions. They're not thinking deep about anything.
And now they're all yelling at the Republican congressman, saying, "You're cutting my Social Security. Fuck you. You voted for this. Don't be bitching."
I mean, but like, when you're the audience, right? Like the audience corollary is more of that character than it is
absolutely
Henry Fonda, who's throughout the movie you're like, oh shit, he's pretty smart. Like this, I probably wouldn't necessarily, have all of these objections. Like I probably would have a hard time paying attention to like every detail of this case.
Most people are like discounting Don Draper, who like couldn't articulate why he feels any way, any moment in time, because he just doesn't think about things that deeply.
He gets bullied into changing his vote again.
Yeah, I mean that's real, and that's to have that depicted in 1957 when like that's like what the soft compliance of all these walled gardens are training everyone to be. That's groundbreaking.
I don't think that Reginald Rose could have probably come up with that if he didn't serve on that jury, right? Like
he probably saw a dude just like that guy. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
I've never done jury duty, but if I
I've
could,
never
I
been,
would.
I've never
done peer
been,
mediation though, so like that's the closest thing, I guess. But we've had to do mock trials about like the amendments and stuff like that in government.
Could you do you think you could rank the 12 Angry Men by which one is angriest?
Lee J. Cobb is the angriest.
Lee J. Cobb is probably the angriest, but like after that, who's the least angry of them? Because there's that one guy, just like he's very calm and cool and collected the entire time, and then just kind of
he probably smoked weed before. You know?
Yeah, today's 12 Angry Men. There'd be somebody vaping.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like no vaping in that room.
I think that if you were gonna go by least, right? the least angry of all those men is the guy that's like, oh, we'll throw it on the stoop and see if the cat licks it up. That's probably the least.
Because he's not angry because like he doesn't like he's barely there. Like he's not even. He's like
a puppy dog.
Yeah, exactly. He's not paying attention. He's not a deep thinker. Like he doesn't know enough to be angry. Right?
So
you're probably right.
The second angriest is obviously Ed Begley Sr. After that,
100%. Yeah.
And then I would probably say the guy with the glasses that looks like a banker is on the bottom list, right? Like towards the least angry.
Mousy.
He doesn't have that guy.
Yeah.
This is when it starts to get harder. I feel
it gets harder near the tail end because it's like, oh yeah, that guy. Which one is he? You know, like.
Ooh, yeah.
And you got the Czech dude is like he gets angry, but he's not like at a resting state angry. So like the Jack Warden guy that's trying to get to the baseball game, third angriest probably. Yeah. And then I would probably say third to whatever is probably E.G. Marshall. And then if you go up, it's Edward Binns, the guy that gets in everyone's face about not being mean to the old man. And then I would say it's probably the old man. And in the center of that list, I would probably, we don't hear enough from the foreman or whatever. So he's on the less angry side. The most you hear about him is when he's like talking about like, oh, we got rained out this one time. Oh, okay. It's the most you've ever talked. Okay.
It's like, can we please focus on the case?
I sound like a little kid trying to make.
We don't want to be here all day now. This is already the hottest day of the year. It's going to be a little longer than an hour and a half.
And then I would probably put the George Westovec guy, and then I guess Henry Fonda because he's not afraid. He's assertive, but he's
reasonable.
Yeah.
But by the way, I do love, and it's so stagey, but like when they all start facing away from racist bro, like it works. Like it works in a way that in a lesser movie I'd be like, fucking come on. But in this movie, it's like, no, it totally works because it's earned.
But it's including the people like Lee J. Cobb and like the other like guys that are still pretty xenophobic. They're still pissing away from him because he's
like, whoa, not like that though. I mean, I think it's a great scene, and it's something that it's such a it's so great at blocking, right? I mean, that's another thing. Like I give a shout out for this month is like if you're doing movies about courtrooms, get your blocking correct.
Yeah,
it's really important and something that like people don't think about.
75% of it is the block.
Like small enclosed space, you have to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like
voguing optional.
Yeah.
I like when they do the entire
bit. To do cinematography for this.
Where it's I like when they do the entire bit where he's walking through the thing and everyone's following Henry Fonda as he limps through the whole building too. Yeah. I like that touch.
Yep.
Well, and that's more of that compression and release too, right? Like where like it's like you get so just like you're like right up on these sweaty dudes, like just grinding it out and getting more and more irritated by the second, and then at the end of it, like you get this big like, oh wow, like that's a wide, super wide angle lens. By the way, what's your name? Oh okay, okay, cool. Yeah. Later. I'll never see you again now. Goodbye.
Thank God.
I also just because of this moment in time and like our media space, right? Like I really appreciated the first thing you hear from Lee J. Cobb really when he's like, oh, I don't have any personal opinion about this. This is just facts. I'm just stating facts. And that's like the
light centrist.
That's like the classic reactionary guy. Like I'm just asking questions now, like that kind of thing, right?
You're gonna play devil's advocate.
These are just my facts, and it's like by the end of it, you realize no, he's actually the one pushing hardest for this kid to get fried, and he thinks he's basically gonna be the one to pull the switch, right? Like
Well, and you brought up a good point that when Jack Warden's character. Like he's more mad when he sees that Jack Klugman is an Orioles fan than like anything else in the entire time. He's so pissed about it.
Which I think he'll appreciate this. They switch out Balsam in the 1997 one for Milwaukee.
Nice. People get real worked up about sports, man.
Gotta get it gotta get it accurate.
But I think that these are some angry men.
He's so fucking mad. So he can never be like low on the angry list because he gets so pissed about being an Orioles fan.
Yeah.
Definitely never seeing you again.
I feel like Reason and Debate, right? Like this is one of those classic like Reason and Debate movies where it's like you debate the people one after another, like you round them all up and knock them down like bowling pins. But
there's a lot of DNA in here to some of the best parts of like Star Trek, where they're like it's like the big moral dilemma of whether whether you break the Prime Directive or whatever. Like it's foundationally like one of the great debates, and I say that as someone who does not care for debates, because most of what people call debates now isn't. It's just people trying to gain clout, and I'm like,
but this really is, and the recognition from the beginning that like the recognition from the beginning of this story that everybody kind of has their own personal prejudices, right? Like like Henry Fonda's character. Henry Fonda's character is a bleeding heart liberal kind of person, right? Like it is a thing where it's like he's way more I think mentally and emotionally likely to see all of these things than someone who like Lee J. Cobb, who's like, no, I just want to fry him and I don't really give a fuck, right? Like that those are different psychological mindsets.
Yeah, and I think it is. You get a good wide swath of it too, and that's one of the reasons why this works so well, because I think you get that without it being caricatures, right? Like you have, like the bank teller isn't just like a haughty elite guy. Like, well, hold on, let's hear this out. Like, let's dig into this, and I think that's, I don't know. I feel like in modern storytelling, like there's one of two ways. It goes too empathetic, like ruinous empathy, or it's just as like everyone's a caricature. And I like Knives Out a lot, but it's like, all right, I get it. It's like it's the MRA kid. Okay, cool. I get exhausted by that sometimes. It's like, even though those things do exist, don't get me wrong, but it's, I don't know. I mean, this may sound like inscrutable, like me saying about this, but both those things piss me off where it goes too far one end or the other.
Who knows how we would knowing the McCarthyite implications of stuff, right? Like in pop culture, like
you're right. In 2025 it hits completely differently than I'm sure it did in 1957. That's a really good point.
Because they're like, oh man, all right, the liberal guy is right, and he stands up against the established contention or whatever. Like
Yeah, well, that and in context is everything. But one of the things that I think makes this such a masterpiece, though, is that even as culture changes and our relationship to law and judges and civic duty and whatnot changes, it still works.
Yeah,
it still works really well.
And I think it like the fact that I brought it up earlier, but like the fact that this is done with a certain amount of public spiritedness, right? Like. Like having people understand that like this is
almost propaganda for doing jury duty, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's sort of like
isn't it fun? You could get done in an hour and a half if you actually pay attention and try to analyze it.
You can hang out with a bunch of cool guys that
fun. They don't make it seem fun.
And some of the worst dudes you've ever met as well. Yeah, but don't worry, they're all dudes.
But yeah, I mean, it is propagandistic for our legal system, right? Like it is, which is good though. I think that when there was that added motivation for people to come up with stuff like that doesn't exist as much. The political side of it feels a little bit less, like a little bit less of a dead on hammer hitting nail.
Yeah, and you don't get a lot of movies that take place in the jury room too. Like it's more focused on like how impassioned the legal arguments are, right? The prosecutor versus the defense attorney, the surprise witness, the judge, and what might be happening. And like this is like none of that's even relevant. Like you hear about it.
There's so few of them that there's an actual Wikipedia category, films about juries.
Oh really? Nice.
Yeah.
There's got to be not that many.
Category
right?
for everything. There's got to be everything.
It's probably a letterbox list for it too.
At least 3 of them are 12 Angry Men and the remake.
Yeah, 12 Angry Men and the remake of 12 Angry Men and 12 Angry Men in Spanish. That's probably a thing, right? I mean, like,
or just There's
apparently there's a Pauly Shore movie called Jury Duty.
Oh yeah, I remember that came out. I was like, I ain't watching that.
Yeah.
There's the show Jury Duty, which is brilliant. But
some of these are like Indian Tamil language. They're trying to teach Indian people how to do jury duty the same way that this movie, I think, is trying to teach American audiences to do jury duty. Is Perfect Strangers a movie about jury duty? I don't think it really is, but.
But I think if you think about like subjective truth and like rationalization and denial and whatnot, like, I mean, the mechanics of it haven't changed that much, right? I mean, it's like this is 60 years later plus, right?
Well, and that's how our legal system was supposed to be. Like, it's they set it up originally, and like how much does it really change? I mean, specific laws might change, but like how much does the mechanics of court change? It doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pauly Shore's jury duty. Never mind.
Well, and you get lots of like cool detail, like you mentioned, like, oh yeah, I never sweat. Okay, sure,
yeah.
Dude. All right. I don't care.
Hottest day
okay.
of the year. Okay.
It sounds like a line going up to like a one-liner, punchline, or whatever. I never sweat, except when my wife checks my browser history.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what more really there is to say with it. I think it's a stellar film, and I think it's underrated. I think when people are like, "Oh, I don't want to see a bunch of white dudes yell at each other," okay.
If I wanted to see that, I would.
I would
I would listen to a podcast. I'd watch a show. Okay, fine, whatever. Sure, you're so clever. Here's your fucking.
I'd watch
award.
a debate, which I'm going to be going on Tuesday, March 17th at 10 p.m. Eastern after our Legally Blonde show. Yeah.
But like, I mean, that's also people drawing a conclusion based on data that they don't have, right? I mean, like the whole thing, and it's so ironic because it's like, what's the line? We're talking about someone's life here. We can't decide it in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Of course,
yeah.
like that should be.
And it has
obvious.
some pretty bleak implications, right? Like,
of course,
the fact that it even resonates, the fact that juries still kind of put people in jail in a very fast thing. They make sure to, like, in a lot of those court shows, they make sure to be like, well, it was like 4 hours, or it was 6 hours, or like,
yeah, they'll say the time.
Really, like, can you really have an adequate picture of your life put up in that amount of time? Like,
yeah, I mean. Again, I'll say it again. I think it's like often imitated, and that people attempt to emulate it, but it just doesn't come out the same way. And it's weird that a film can just be that good, where it's like that good at showing this thing that like everything else is just a pale imitation somehow.
Yeah,
right. Despite that, oh yes, it is only white dudes. Okay, if that's all you care about, sure. Then apparently it's terrible. Okay.
Well, it's another thing, like, I think a lot of people have, like, Death of a Salesman is another good, like, example of a play that a lot of people have tried to fucking replicate, and it's been
it's going to be like, it is not as good as Death of a Salesman.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I love, the black and white of it all. That works for me as well. I think it's really iconic that way. And I think that, like, if it was in color, okay, that would be different, and it wouldn't be worse. It'd just be different.
Death of a podcast.
It's good. It's good. But you get all these small details that would, like, totally go unnoticed, right? And then, again, it's not done through flashbacks. It's not done through, like, remember when the person said this or whatever? It's told, and, like, you're given what you were told on the screen. So when doubt is introduced and it's compiled as it goes, you're left in the same position as the people in the room and on the screen. And I think it's so deftly deployed that way that, like, you care. You know what I mean? You care. And when things start to change, you're like, yeah, awesome. And it's like, oh, wait a second. Like, how am I getting caught up in this? Like, this is totally fiction.
I mean, they still have, like, the L train too, which is like
right
one of those things. But I think that, like, they have. It's interesting that that's true, but also, like, you can take this story, and because it's been adapted so many times, right? Like, you're free to kind of plug in, like, if things change or if you want to have different characters doing things for different motivations, you can plug different things in a way, like, or you can kind of switch even lines.
It's almost you're right, because it's almost like combat, right? But instead of, like, with fists or swords or guns or whatever, it's words.
Yeah. and Henry
Gotta
Fonda
throw
went in there with
hands.
Henry Fonda went in there with a
Words.
switchblade.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's so I just think like when it turns around, you just like it's hard not to get stoked about it. It's like, oh, that's
Film takes place only in the jury room. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's kind of the point.
That's literally what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they don't really leave it. I mean, now they sequester juries. It seems like in this case they didn't really. I mean, they were sequestered into that room, but like, like when they have like the big trials, right? Like they keep them in like hotel rooms for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and try to keep them away from
the
world.
Can you
Fonda
imagine being a juror on like the Depp Heard trial? Like that was the funniest part because she knew everything was going on. I'm like, you're not supposed to be knowing what we're saying about you, girl. Like, stop.
But like Henry Fonda, this isn't like he's able to go on a walk at least.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
But you
also
see,
there's
you
no
learn
social media.
information from seeing the scene of the crime, and like even that detail, right, where he was able to go to the guy's neighborhood and like he finds out more than what a jury today might actually find out.
I feel like in today's world, you couldn't redo 12 Angry Men because of social media. It just takes away what made it special about it.
You couldn't do it because of twerking on TikTok.
I saw a TikTok the other day.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is not the same movie at all. Like I said, there's a twist to it, but I think the best representation of that is probably Juror Number 2, which I did enjoy. And
I heard it's really good.
Some people are mad at it. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to go to war about this, but I enjoyed the fucking movie. All right, leave me alone.
12 Angry Chairs. That's my only one.
That's good. Is that gonna be your review, your joke review?
No, I mean I haven't seen. I want to see it though because people have been saying it's really good.
Oh, J.K. Simmons is badass in it. There's a bunch of there's. It's good. It's good.
I don't really do joke like unless I'll do 2 sometimes to a joke, but I try to keep my reviews self-serious.
Yeah,
to a fault.
I know.
That's a good one if you were to. But yeah, Clint is so funny because I know I was like, was it the last episode? Yeah, I was like giving big ups to Unforgiven. Great.
Yeah,
but he's definitely put out a lot of like, oh yeah, that one.
But also his like
American Sniper.
I don't mean his I don't mean his politics in terms of like voting. I mean his politics in terms of like his personal mindset is more like the Lee J. Cobb kind of character, right? In this than it is the Henry Fonda.
And then it comes out with a hit and then a flop, a hit and then a flop, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying is like it's a situation where and he gets it. Give him credit. Give the dude credit. Like like most people are not going for swings that big when they're in their I want to say 90s, 94 or something crazy. Mm-hmm. Like I genuinely enjoyed some of the last few movies. I'm like, miss me with that. But like,
I remember liking Gran Torino when it came out.
Gran Torino, good. I like $1 Million Baby a lot. I thought that was really.
God, I remember my sister and I got into a huge debate about American Sniper. I'm like, that dude is not a hero. Okay. Good for what happened to him.
I don't know. Like,
he's a hero because he was murdered. I like heroes who weren't murdered.
right, exactly. But I'm just saying that it's cool that he did something different with it. I think that's kind of what, because I was like, all right, it's going to be Clint Eastwood doing 12 Angry Men is what I thought it was going to be. I was like, oh no, this is like a little different than that. And like Nicholas Holt's good. I have a few things that I could fix in an edit. that would be more to my sensibilities, but like whatever. It's
okay. Good. Don't be an armchair editor now.
No, I'm just saying it's
yeah. No, I want to
respect 94, dude. Come on.
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
It's worth watching for sure.
I mean, I also haven't really been searching Twitter for Juror Number 2, so I'm sure there were people that were mad.
People always mad. People mad if Clint Eastwood does literally anything. It doesn't matter, and like he's just one of those guys. Anyway, Letterboxd, of course, is a place for film lovers to talk at with and to each other and be mad at each other sometimes. Everybody gets to chime and opine about the movies they love, maybe the movies that they didn't love, maybe the movies that they just noted the sweatiness of and moved on with their lives. Who knows? But it's a bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to... It's so delicious salt. Dogs everywhere. Everyone gets to chime and opine. Everyone gets to have their say, not just Siskel's and Eberts of the world. And of course, this is best done succinctly, best expressed quickly. And then these are collected weekly by yours truly for us to react to on the screen for the movie that we're covering. These are the letterbox one-liners for 12 Angry Men. Let's go. That was the best 1.5 hours of middle-aged white dudes yelling at each other that I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When they all started ignoring the racist, one of the best scenes in cinema history. There is no reasonable doubt.
When in doubt, ignore the
Like,
racists in the room.
Especially because like some of them definitely have soft tendencies towards that too, and it's like even they're like, okay, buddy, this
is a bridge too far.
down.
Yeah, exactly. Like
even for me. Look, I didn't mean them.
All right, there, Goldwater. Yeah. Okay. I know it smelled crazy in there.
Yeah,
I
probably
have
smelled
my
like
letterbox one-liners for films. Have that one.
12 sweaty men.
Yeah. Not great. Not great. When the men start getting angry, holy shit, I started levitating.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't believe it. It's like as if, the title would suggest, this would happen.
People
would
always
know.
talk about how
don't-
long when the process of like one of the more impressive parts about like the Constitution and coming up with that, right? Like that whole convention is that they were stuck in a similar kind of situation in that room in the middle of the summer. And people always describe like the nastiest parts of that. And I like that there's that same kind of public spirit really is just sweat, I think, in the end.
I get all my information about that from Hamilton, so
I'm sweaty,
Yeah.
sweaty Eddie.
Exactly. I hope the hat guy missed that baseball game.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. It's like a fisherman hat too. Like
it's he refuses to take it off indoors, which pisses me off. I'm like, take off that fucking hat. Wait, who are you?
that's why you need James Gandolfini to be like, take off that hat.
Take off the hat.
Exactly. Is there a better way to celebrate International Women's Day than watching a masterpiece with no women in it?
It's actually crazy how late in some states women could serve on juries. See it, it's like, oh no, they just passed this law in like the 60s, and it's like, geez, like,
yeah. Congratulations, everyone.
we can't let them on. We can't let them on juries. They're too emotional for that.
The defendant should have called Saul.
Ladies and gentlemen, my client, what are the odds that there was 2 knives of the same exact variety? Like, you can't prove that there wasn't.
Dudes, be ready to put someone to death over a baseball game.
Well, I mean, you get tickets and you gotta head on down.
Exactly. It's a good game. We got money on it.
Live from the Poly Market. Never mind.
So invested in this that I was the 13th angry man. Very good. No notes.
It's what is that? Last Supper?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Juror 3 and 10 can lick my balls, bro.
The one guy's just mad at his kid. He's mad at his kid. He's mad at his kid, and he's trying to kill any other kid because he's mad at his own kid. Bro, kill your own kid.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to get other people's kids killed?
Yeah, exactly. Take care of your own house, son. What are you doing?
What do you got? What do you got going on? Something going on that we don't know about?
Right, exactly.
A little projection.
Those are Letterboxd. One-liners for 12 Angry Men. Please follow the show at Movie Night Extra, where we are frequently, sometimes, posting stories about all the great movies we cover, links to all the attendant content, short form stuff, great stuff. Please interact with us over there as we go on this filmic journey. Filmic? Sure. With all the movies that we cover on this very show. And you can talk to the Ute counselor still, apparently. At Always Flacco.
I forgot to change it.
Yeah, it still works. That could be an evergreen one. That's fine.
Well, I was the counselor. I was the counselor that to the kid that was on it's his trial.
Oh, very good.
I wasn't very good. I'm a failure as a youth
terrible.
counselor.
Yeah, apparently you're very lazy, is what I hear. But Follow at Always Flacco for all the stuff we cover in this show and many more things that he's logging on his letterboxd. I am Conan, one angry neutron. You can follow me at Conan Neutron, doing the highbrow, the midbrow, the populist fair. Follow me along for the Criterion Challenge, deep in it. Ahead of the game right now. I'm going to be out on tour for a bit, so I'm hoping that it's like when you build up your muscles so much so that you just don't look like garbage when you come back, aka being rocking while old. So it's like, well, I didn't lose anything.
12 angry biceps, more like.
That's what I'm doing with the Criterion Challenge. I front-loaded a lot of it because I know there's going to be a bunch of weeks I missed. So, but follow me along for that if you feel so inclined. Take the journey. Buy the ticket, take the ride. Kristina and one bitchy broad. Adam, Kristina. I got a hell of a lot of stuff these days.
I think these two would be different if they added one bitchy broad to 12 Angry Men. I think
that'd be like how we produce it. What if we had a bitchy broad? They got added to the cast.
Yep. Do it.
A mouthy dame. Okay, sure.
12 mouthy dames.
12 mouthy dames. Damn it. That would be the 50s version of women talking for sure. So follow her along on Letterboxd, as well as all of us. Let's hit it with the bugs.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and then hit the bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. And we'd humbly request that you watch the video to the end, because it helps us with the algorithm and helps more film fans to discover the show. We're also monetized. If you want to get your chat questions definitely read on stream, you can always send us a super chat, which will help us keep the show going. Every cent helps. If you're watching on Twitch, you can gift us a free sub on Amazon Prime with your Prime membership, but getting subs on Twitch is always appreciated, and it helps to follow us on there as well. We also have an audio feed, which is available wherever you download podcasts, if you prefer to listen to podcasts rather than watch the stream. That's updated usually the same day we stream, but watching on YouTube and Twitch is the best way to get the show first, live as it happens. If you want to support us with a monthly donation and get access to all of our after parties forever, which go patron only after we do them, you can become a patron at patreon.com/movie night extra. Link is in the description for that. It really helps us keep the show going since we do have some expenses to make this happen. We also have a Discord community. Link is in the description for that. We sometimes watch movies we cover on there. We get into conversations about everything from film to TV shows to related podcasts. We even have a Discord channel for memes. It's really fun on there. You can find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and Threads. You connect with us on all of those. Talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Lastly, we recently made a TikTok at Movie Night Extra where we're putting up short-form clips from the episodes. Okay, passing this to Conan so he can tell you about his music and this week's Protonic Reversal. Conan, who's on Protonic this week?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier in the week, Robert Cassis of 1001 Album Complaints of the Beverly Crushers coming up, and then last Protonic Reversal before a multi-week hiatus will be Brian Childs of Red Fang coming up next week. So there's a couple more episodes of that. $1 a month, patreon.com/Protonic Reversal. As always, I am full band mode right now. NeutronFriends.bandcamp.com. Way the Neutron, new record. It is Sharks Keep Moving. Is available to stream as of yesterday, this particular stream, and it is second single. So thanks, folks, for checking that out. If you haven't already, you can find that on Bandcamp. It's going to be streaming all the other stuff next week. Pre-order the record, pre-order the CD, pre-order the digital. Cannot overstate how much the lifeblood of the band comes off of people coming in and buying direct from Bandcamp. It's kind of surreal how much it is compared to what negligible amounts we get from the streamers that are not those things. So if you're remotely interested in the band, this is the best record. Check it out. Now's the time to strike. So on and so on. We are, of course, doing a whole bunch of touring. I'm going to announce a bunch of tour dates for the U.S. next week. But I guess most notably, more than anything else, you would really have to be living under a rock if you pay attention to this show. We are going to Japan. So we're going to go in Japan next month which I did not specifically design this flyer so that Kristina would be covered up, but here we are.
How dare you, sir? Oh well.
But yeah, if you know anybody in Japan or whatever, let them know. Otherwise, I'll report back in exacting detail. It's the first time we've done that. Very excited. 12 shows, a bunch of different regions. We're not just hitting Tokyo. We're hitting a bunch of different places.
12 angry shows.
Most of the Kurosawa
Literally.
locations are like way the hell away from anywhere we're going to be. I checked. But there's some cool ones that we're going to be able to go to. So I'm excited for that. Way of the Neutrons, name of the record. Come get it. There's not any big dollar push behind it or anything along those lines. It's all word of mouth. So appreciate everyone that has supported by buying the record, pre-ordering the record, CD, digital, et cetera, all that kind of helps fund the fun train, if you will. And we really appreciate it. And it's also a really good record, in my opinion.
Way of Neutron.
Caterwall, 523, 524, 525, 526, Minneapolis, Minnesota. 40 different bands. Mortimer's Or Darling. 331 Club, good times. Tickets for that available. You missed the early bird pricing if you didn't get tickets already, but still very cheap by comparison for the amount of entertainment that you get. And that is very real. I was on Unkai Rewind for the precursor episode for when I did Pump Up the Volume with them. So what they do it kind of KT more used to do it with her show. One episode is kind of talking about it beforehand. And then the other episode is after everyone's seen it. So the second part of that is going to be next week. The first part of that's already out. So go to the Unkind Rewind podcast subscription page, YouTube, however you dive into such things. It's all there. There's an episode of the Getting Out podcast that I'm on that is going to be coming out shortly. There's this cool feature about Sharks Keep Moving, the new single that just came out today as well. And and still 1001 Album Complaints, the Nielsen Schmilson episode. Very good time. And I say that as a Harry Nilsson fan. That's a good one for folks that enjoy hearing music discourse. There's a bunch of other things that I have coming up as well. It's all, this is a press cycle. This is what a press cycle looks like, people. That's what I actually do when I'm not doing this.
What a press cycle looks like.
So there's a lot of me doing a lot of stuff, but I think that's at least all of what I can remember of it right now. So there you go. Kristina, what do you have?
Well, that's a lot, Conan. I even forgot.
I know, it's more than normal, and I feel exhausted even saying it, but it's what it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Got something big happening. Can't talk much about it, but it's a big
things
opportunity. Yeah. April, May, June, sometime before
Big
summer hits.
Like Godzilla, that was a big thing coming, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can say this is like Godzilla.
Everyone
Anyway.
Godzilla!
But it's not like
very
Godzilla
big.
because that would be copyright.
Exactly.
Of course.
It's Gordzilla.
Yeah.
It's Gordzilla!
Gorgonzola!
I am going to be doing Shadow Saturday tomorrow, of course, after I'm done working.
I completely forgot it was Friday right now, and I was like,
I
no, you're not doing Saturday tomorrow. It's
Dude.
Wednesday.
I know, yeah.
I know. It's like,
I remember enough for everybody because I was like, oh, please, let me get through this.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
this
Shadow
is how
Saturday-
crazy. I noticed I'm missing a tine on this star. And like, I noticed that halfway through the show, I'm like, where the fuck did that go? That's how like out of it I am. I'm like, I didn't notice that for the first hour of the show. I guess I'm spending my time looking at myself. I don't know. But
Oh,
Thank
God. So, Shadow Saturday tomorrow. We're going to figure out who's going to be the life force for Eve, Adam's female Frankenstein monster companion. Apparently there's a lot going on. Angelique is still a vampire. She wants to not become a vampire because the devil, Nicholas Blair, wants her to still be the slave. Barnabas is very, very worried about everything that's going on with the family. Liz has lost her mind. She thinks about death.
About everything going on with the family. Barnabas.
Family comes first in Dark Shadows when it comes to that, man. And then, of course,
Where did that come from?
I don't know where that came from.
Is that Donald Trump?
Sorry, I can tell you why I did that. I would have to interrupt Kristina's plugs to do it though, so I'm not going to. I'll do when she's
Okay,
done.
yeah, I've been interrupted enough already, and I've forgotten what I was supposed. Oh yeah, we might have to do our Legally Blonde episode like an hour early because I got a debate to do at like 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday.
Got to debate a bro.
Debate a bunch of bros apparently, so that's gonna be fun. It's
All
gonna
of
be
them?
12 angry streamers.
I was gonna say it's very relevant.
We could do it an hour early.
Yeah, I don't mind. It'll be fun. And
that's fine.
Yeah, it's
We're doing our after party tonight. So
yeah.
Who's coming on for that? Do we know?
Anyone? Ravenna?
I think it's just us. I think it's us.
Also, I just had a collab with Vasora Official on stream, which was a lot of fun. Two Jersey girls debating whether or not Central Jersey exists or it's Taylor Hand or Pork Roll, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, sure, but when I make that joke, you jump down my throat.
Well, I jumped down her throat too. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Big things coming. I can't really say much about it, but
big things coming.
Yeah, and my hair keeps growing.
Hey, don't forget, you're moving in silence.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, I'm moving in silence.
Moving in silence. Yeah, exactly. No, there's a.
Oh yeah. Also, one more thing I forgot. I'm gonna be. I think it's next week. I'm gonna be seeing the new Snow White because I love Rachel Zegler. I hate Gal Gadot, and I wanna.
I feel like that movie's been going to come out for 5 years.
Yeah. Because white dudes are like, this is not my Snow White. I'm like, Snow White's not for you. It's for the 5-year-old girl named Kristina who went dressed as Snow White the first time she moved down here for Halloween.
Hashtag not my Snow White.
She's not even Snow White because of her skin. She's because she survived a cold ass winter. People think.
I could not imagine
being more mad about a film. Yeah.
Carrying that's what you're mad about? Like, I'm sorry, what do you have in your life? Nothing? Apparently you don't have anything in your life.
That's why I'm just saying I gotta keep secret about it. I'm gonna be the anti that. So because we need more women in that space to talk about stuff like that.
You should just be that. You should just be that, but be the woman version. I bet you'd be like, they're gonna make her what is this, Snow Black? Like
well the problem is that Rachel Zegler pays attention to me on Twitter, so I can't hate her because she's great. And she's for Free Palestine.
I don't have any feelings about her at all. Like she seems like a perfectly nice young lady. I've never seen her in anything that I'm aware of.
I feel like a lot of it is
cool when she presented that award.
I feel like a lot of it is
in that Hunger Games movie.
I feel like a lot of stuff is people
saw that. Come on.
People needing to generate content, and it's like, oh, what can I be bad about? What can I be bad about? Oh,
this Snow White has a tan.
Movie. This snow orange.
This is what I got a message from my bandmates about. Like, hey, can we go to this? Which is like a Tory Gate speakers you can apparently plug your phone into and play a song through.
Nice.
And I went to go look that up immediately, and our stream started playing through the phone. So my bad. That's why.
That's why.
That's why you guys. But I was like, that looks badass. Like, what is that?
Yeah,
that's great.
I like how they're trying to generate engagement by going, what song would you play?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's
We are the champions.
And apparently, and I was like, the whole time I was looking to be like, oh, where is that? It's in Tokushima.
We're playing the Chinese Communist Party anthem. That would be cool.
It's a different country, but yeah, this is Japan, not China.
I know. I'm just saying.
Okay. But
you got to play an ode to the emperor.
There you go.
It's in Tokushima, which we are playing in Tokushima. I just don't know if we would have time to go out there just to see it. But maybe you make time for some.
Go see the capybaras.
There's also a Tanuki.
Sharks keep swimming through the.
Yeah, exactly. Check it out. Yeah. Come on, put them up.
This is me. They're like, bro.
We know.
You're playing your own. You're playing your own music through the Tory Gate.
Come on. What are you even doing here? This is a sacred space. How dare you?
That's like jacking off in front of us, bro.
Apparently, it's an hour away from where we're playing, so that might be possible. Might be kind of hard. There's also if you want to, you can zip line into Godzilla's mouth.
That'll be my anti-SJW woke podcast name. Like,
yeah, that's good. That's good. But yeah, there's a. Hold on, let me throw it up on the screen. This is like on the way into.
I don't know why I didn't think about that.
Which apparently parties, because like I don't know if you're like, cool, you can zip line into Godzilla's mouth. All right, yeah, that sounds like a good time. Sure, why not?
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
That's how I feel about the Democratic Party. They're constantly ziplining into Godzilla's mouth.
Yeah, let's censure people. Anyway, whatever.
Zipline into the mouth of Godzilla.
Godzilla did nothing wrong. Anyway.
All right, we're gonna have an after party where if you like this,
yeah.
If you want throat jumping and anti-woke derangement syndrome.
But first, Kristina, Cosmo. Final thoughts on 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, they really should have. Never mind. This film's great. Yeah, they really should have had a broad there just to spice things up. I mean,
technically speaking, they do though. Like at the very beginning, if you're going to be pedantic, but obviously.
But you gotta listen to what I gotta say though. The men, they got a lot of pent up energy. They're stressed out. They only got an hour and a half. I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm not gonna say the rest, but you know what I was thinking. But yeah, this film's really great. Watched in pure mediation. I think it's a really great film to watch if you want to. If
mediate your peers.
If you're literally like, hey, I'm doing jury duty, I don't know what the fuck that means and what I gotta do, go watch this movie.
Jury? What is this? Jury duty? Is it?
And pay attention, and you might learn something.
Yeah, it's a good. I feel like there needs to be more public service related films where like they're breaking down, like they find a cool story to break down something that like why don't they do it with voting? Like no, like they could make a movie that's so cool that it makes people. I mean, they probably can't, but
they could try.
Yeah,
which would be more than what they're doing now, which is nothing.
Yeah. But Conan, one of your favorite movies. Wait, do you like this or Network better? Which would you put further up?
I like Network better than 12 Angry Men, but 12 Angry Men is definitely it's in the top 10. I think like 6 or 7 somewhere in there. I can't remember. I'd have to look at it. Yeah, so 2 Lumet's in the top 10. Not bad.
Yeah.
Great even. Some might say great even. Yeah, it's a masterclass of storytelling, performance, writing, and direction. It's a gold standard for the single room movie. Like I said, I think it's emulated and imitated often, but rarely this successfully and iconically. I, again, this time noticed not a single flashback. Yet, every aspect of this unseen trial. Amazing.
Yeah.
So it's a top tier.
Exactly.
No fast forwards either. It's all just right there. You hear it in the discussion, and it's so compelling because of the writing, because of the performances, because of the direction, all the great framing and the shots in there. I mean, it's top tier civic duty, courthouse, and arguing cinema for all those. It's a sweaty, compelling, and strangely winding moral tale, and pleasure to cover it for Justice Night Extravaganza. And yeah, number 2 of Letterboxd top 250 of all time. Not bad.
I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy. I've I
definitely be good notary public fence. No, someone should do that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
The Notary by Quentin Tarantino.
So he's a notary, and he gets involved in something. He signs something. He doesn't realize he's signing someone's death warrant.
He's like using his stamp as a weapon, like whacking dudes in the face with it. Oh.
He realizes that what he signed is a death certificate for someone who's about to get killed, and he has to use his stamp to stop the guy from getting killed. It's 3 hours long. And Samuel L. Jackson is in it. He's the notary.
Exactly.
He works at the bank. All right. So we were going to go.
If you want more of this kind of content, tune in to our after party. 12 Angry Podcasts.
The words aren't written for us. We're actually coming up with this live
as it goes.
On the spot.